In this paper, I present a comparative analysis of custom-motion events involving placement, removal, causation, and transfer in Spanish and German within an emerging cognitive construction grammar theory of mind and language. The aim of this article is to offer a syntactic account by which argument structure information is required to understand the encoding of transferred object-target path in these languages. The core theoretical observation is that the spatial representation of events of transfer and placement is reliant on embodied patterns of constructional attachment patterns that are not attributable to typological differences, such as particle or monomorphemic verbal encoding of target path. This insight can be summarized as follows. Typologically different languages encode custom-motion information in an argument structure construction, while the specific semantics of verbs encode stance, object, shape, weight, and target path structure. In Spanish, verbal object path encoding does not require the use of specific placement markers, since the speakers identify the form and shape of objects encoded by specific verbs. In German, object shape and form, as well as path, are encoded by specific particles, prefixes, and base verbs. The conclusion is that both argument structure and verbal meaning are required to understand the way speakers perceive and further conceptualize reality through language. The main motivation of this paper is to oppose the inaccurate characterization of some languages, for example German, as being more complex in hands, so it is implied more sophisticated than others, e.g. Spanish, for the description of reality. In my paper, I show that there are cognitive universals shared by all humans that do not reflect any specific influence of language over thought. This puts pressure on the idea that some languages are more sophisticated cognitively, as some researchers wrongly claim. We expect that German speakers will be guided by their language to attend to concepts of verticality and horizontality when perceiving placement events, whereas Spanish speakers will not be guided to attend to object position. In contrast to this, I present a model of language from which generalizations regarding its role in cognition can be made. In order to investigate this thesis, I analyze the cognition of custom-motion, including causation, removal, placement, and transfer, as an overarching category in which different types of arguments are profiled, depending on whether an object or entity is moved by an agent from a source location to a target location. From this angle, it is pointless to draw exclusive distinctions between constructions involving a donor, a recipient, and a transferred object, the transitive, and those that activate a transferred object in a target path, a placement construction. Daniel toisen meirin poittale. B. Removal construction. Hän otti pois myttävänä levyn ja työnsi sen lakkuunsa. These examples show that the meaning of custom-motion clauses reflects experiences with force, direction, path, containment, trajectory that are encoded in both verb case, constructional patterns, and the syntactic structure of the sentence. The interaction of the semantics of the verbs and that of the sentence, argument, structure, construction, are termed here constructional attachment patterns. The navigation in space requires senses such as movement, force, involving bearing, resistance, and balance, involving the realignment of the musculo-skeletal configuration of our bodies to counteract an opposing force. Embodied spatial cognition thus allows the speakers to represent different types of events. Shown in Figure 1, an agent conceptualizer organizes the spatial knowledge from a peripersonal compass by means of, for example, spatial projective terms, e.g. left, right, behind, both deictic and non-deictic utterances. To reconstruct metaphorically past event, involving the spatial category of occlusion, I left the past behind me. To report an event of placement, involving the spatial category of support, I placed the sphere in the cylinder to the left. Some pointing may be involved to communicate to someone else the position of an object in the space. The cone is behind the cube to the right. This requires, in addition to occlusion, a type of perspective alignment, that is, producing or comprehending a spatial description that requires an individual to adopt a perspective on the scene. The premises guiding the study are the following. Both Spanish and German draw on custom-motion ASC-verb attachment patterns to encode events of transfer and placement. Removal, Spanish. La mano que tronaba sobre la puerta arrebató a Rodrigo de su letargo. B. Removal, German. Und plötzlich schmeißt Galina die Kelle hin, stolz und ohne Scham, und putzt sich eine Träne weg. Higher level attachment patterns may or may not make use of lower level attachment patterns to disambiguate event aspect, e.g. adverbs. Event disambiguation does not point to overarching cognitive differences, encoded or propelled by linguistic particularities in the linguistic system. Spatio-kinetic primitives, including energy, obstacle negotiation, suitable path selection, path avoidance, etc., are encoded by ASC-verb attachment patterns in both Spanish and German. Custom-motion events are partitioned within the boundaries of the clause, and not the verb, and specific space geometries associated with path or location, e.g. enclosures or bounded planes related with regions or areas in the space, are integrated in the custom-motion ASC-verb attachment patterns. In particular, I show that it is not evident that the specific placement verbs in German, e.g. liegen, stellen, exclusively specify horizontal and vertical final position respectively, whereas the Spanish verbs do not. In conclusion, the custom-motion cognitive system in both Spanish and German displays the same patterns of embodied reconstruction of experience by means of senses and spatial relations. These non-linguistic primitives are the basic tools for the construction of events by means of specific constructional attachment patterns.